Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's show, which will be heavily NCAA Tournament talk. On tonight's show, we'll break down the brackets from the men's and women's side of things. Did the committee get the number one seeds right? Can UConn repeat as national champs? Who can be upset on weekend number one? On the men's side. On the women's side of things, we discussed last week, can Caitlin Clark lead Iowa to a championship? Can South Carolina stay undefeated and win the national championship? Will LSU win again compared to last year? Or will somebody else kind of rise up in the ranks and win the women's championship? We'll discuss that and much more here on Fast Break, live on for IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for sports, and you're welcome to join us. And join us as you shout tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to talk about, lots to get into here on tonight's show. Lots to get into. It's going to be a fun show. It's going to be a great show. We're going to talk about a lot of things, a lot of matchups, who we think is going to win the bracket, and women's. A lot of good storylines, especially on the women's side of things. So we're going to get heavy into it. D-Lock, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well, man. This is the most exciting part of college basketball, both on the men and women's side. There's a lot of different things that have happened. A lot of teams have fought their way to get this opportunity to get in the tournament, and now we get to see what can happen with it.
Yeah, a lot of things happening. Let's get into it. The brackets were just announced not too long ago, an hour ago. I was at work and I saw some of it as they're being released. So lots to get into here. The 4 number one seeds in the men's side of things are as follow. At West, the North Carolina Tar Heels, who, despite losing the ACC tournament finals with NC State, they still get the number one seed out West. The number one overall seed belongs to the UConn Huskies. They were starting in the East region against Stetson. Houston, despite getting drummed down by Iowa State in the Big 12 final, they're the number one seed out in Dallas, which that's kind of like a layup for them. And then out in the Midwest, the Detroit bracket, Purdue, despite them losing in their conference tournament, they get the number one overall seed in the Midwest. So D-Lock, North Carolina, UConn, Houston, Purdue. Did you like those number one seeds being announced?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think Purdue played pretty well. I think they just recently lost also, but I think they definitely deserved that number one seed. I think that they're going to be a team to really watch out for. Houston has been playing outstanding, as we've seen them do multiple times recently in these years. UConn just seems like they're clicking on all cylinders too. I think their bracket is going to be pretty decent, but they're going to have to face, a few teams in there like Auburn, who beat my Florida Gators today for the SEC championship. And North Carolina, I think, is a team that I feel like had a pretty decent season. I actually watched them, going to that Pitt and North Carolina game. And I thought that they were a pretty decent team. It just, for me, I felt as if in that number one seed, in that region, you could have considered, other teams like Alabama who've, had a couple of losses that, possibly hurt them, and Arizona. So, but, rightfully so. I think North Carolina is that number one team. But they will have a battle up in their region as well. So I think these number one seeds are spot on. There's a few, like I said, that you probably could have considered. Like, you could have considered Auburn, but UConn being 31-3, it was hard to really justify that. I felt like Marquette played pretty well this year, but when you have Houston looking so dominant, you can't ignore that either. So that was something that was well deserved also. And like I said, even on the Midwest side, I feel like Purdue just handled that region pretty solid. You had Creighton looking pretty decent as well, but and also Tennessee from time to time. But when you don't win SEC championship, that's going to play a big part. So for me, I like the number one seeds, man. I think they got that right.
I'll get the number one seeds like this. UConn kind of been one of the more consistent teams all year and been ranked number one for most good part for the most of the year. Houston was ranked number one, in between is there as well, Purdue. But UConn kind of had a hold on that for the most of the year. So no bones about them being the number one overall seed at this juncture. Houston, and I don't know when the committee kind of selected this. It seemed like they were kind of dead set on these I'll say 3 to 4 number one seeds for the most part. I'll get North Carolina here in a second. But Houston, they got drummed the other night. Like, they got drummed. They didn't really did jack squat against Iowa State. Yeah, I figured that would take into account to things, how that would go about their seeding. But it really didn't. Marquette losing early in the Big East tournament kind of hurt them, like you alluded to. Tennessee as well. They called to beat down the SEC tournament, so they didn't help their odds of things. So, but I thought Iowa State, doing what they did at Houston, I thought that would probably leapfrog them over North Carolina, who took a loss to, Tennessee, NC State in the ACC tournament final. And I thought that should be a consideration of things, in my humble opinion. But, it didn't work out that way. Yeah, I think, the committee probably thinking, like, regardless if North Carolina wins or not, they're in the tournament final, if they make it, they were going to be number one seed. So I thought Iowa State maybe should, be more consideration for number one seed. Arizona is a 2 seed in that West region. Tennessee's a 2 in the Midwest. Marquette's a 2 in the South region. So other than that, my only bone to pick was North Carolina over Iowa State. And I thought Iowa State should get the number one seed on that department. And, I'll go ahead.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel like I definitely agree with you a lot of that, because you're looking at Iowa was one of those teams that played extremely well, and they're going to be a team to watch out for big time. I just feel like now you want to get into the tournament. You remember we talked about it before. This is the reason why college football is making that extensive move of adding more teams, because you're giving some of these teams that opportunity to upset, and play their best game when it counts. Me as a former athlete, I used to think that, peaking at the right time was only in track and field, and that's incorrect. That is far from the truth. I think in every sport that is the case. That's very much, for college basketball as we see it. So, like I said, I think that is good to, at this point of the season, this gives a lot of those teams that motivation to, upset and be ready for any game. Because at this point, every game matters. And as we see every year, it's going to be a team that is not expected to lose. And what's going to happen is, a team is going to upset them, or maybe shock them, or bring some attention to them. So for me, I like how the seeded goes, because there's always a team that's going to look at this and be like, look how we've been slept on. This is what others think of us. So I think that this is very good for a lot of teams. Those number one seed, they got a lot of pressure on them. We talked about the Lakers, winning the NCAA Tournament this year, and they were smoking good before that. And then now they put that number one seed or win the NCAA Tournament. Now, teams were ready to play the Lakers even more. So, I take it even to this tournament. It's the same thing. These number one seeds have to be ready every round.
Yes, they got to be ready. Like, we're going to be ready discussing this bracket, men's and women's. So if you follow along with us, if you want to fill out your bracket along with us, you can. If you just go by your own judgment, hey, all power to you. Before we get started, D-Lock, I want to shout out to the chat. Terry Rodriguez, how you doing tonight, sir? Mike Pat, how you doing tonight, sir? Good to hear from you. Miss Jim B, how you doing tonight, ma'am? I know those Cleveland Cavaliers are the walking wounded right now. And there's a hell of a good game between Akron and I had a team tip my tongue. Akron and who did they play in the final? Akron. Oh God, I had it in my tip of my tongue. I had a Kent State. Yes, Akron and Kent State. I knew it was two Ohio teams. And that player made that bonehead foul at the end. Oh, that was just dumb. Anyways, Kent State. Thank you, Miss Jen. Yeah, and the kid made the bonehead play towards the end. Like, damn, dude. Anyways, Terry, we'll get to that question, and D-Lock, I'll let you think about it. Any two teams who you think did deserve to be in the tournament, and vice versa. So D-Lock, I'll let you think about that. I'll let you pull up bubble watch, all that, and let you brainstorm that. All right, how we gonna do this? We're gonna go by each bracket, starting with the East bracket with the top-ranked UConn Huskies. After that, we're gonna zip over to the South. After that, we're gonna go Midwest, and then the last one we're gonna go West. So East, South, Midwest, West. That's how we're gonna do an order tonight. Let's get started with the East bracket. Your number one overall seed, the UConn Huskies, will be playing on the 22nd, I believe, against Stinson out of Florida. UConn, 31-3 out of the year. Winners of the Big East tournament. Almost had an upset against by Brick Pitino and St. John's. They go against Stinson, who finished the season 22-12. Stinson, my things load up pretty quickly. Who won the ASUN conference tournament? In which that conference tournament right there had some surprises, especially North Alabama. They had a big surprise, finish it, their first round game against Jacksonville. So, I don't know. Stop. Anyways, so you got that matchup there. The 8th seed, the Florida Atlantic Owls, back in the field, 25-8 in the year. Didn't win the conference tournament, but we'll get to that. What Taryn brought up here in a second about the who we didn't think deserved and being all that. They played the 9th seed, the Northwestern Wildcats. They finished the season 21-11 in the Big Ten. The 5th seed, the runners-up last year, the San Diego State Aztecs. They in the field, and in the same side of the bracket are the UConn Huskies. Not by coincidence. They played the number 12 seed, the UAB Blazers, out of Birmingham. That matchup will be in Spokane. Along with this matchup here, Auburn, who won the SEC tournament. Fuck Auburn, by the way. They played the number 13 seed Yale out of the Ivy League, who finished the season 22-9. That should be an interesting matchup there. And I want to shout out to the Mikey Two Guns. How you doing tonight, sir? He said, sad no Boston schools in the tournament. Yeah, it sucks. But hey, Mikey, you got the regional final games in Boston, so that's a good consolation. This saying. Going down the bracket, number 6 seed BYU. This game will be on March 21st against Duquesne, who finished 24-11. The number 3 seed, the Illinois Fighting Illini, won the Big Ten tournament over Wisconsin. They go up against Morehead State, number 14 seed, who finished the season 26-8. And these games will be playing in Omaha, my old stomping grounds. Washington State, number 7 seed, out of the last remaining year of the Pac-12. They finished the season 24-9. They played the 10th seed, the Drake. I forgot the nickname. It'll come to me in a second. They finished at 28-6. And then you got the number 2 seed, Iowa State. Finished 27-7. Winners of the Big 12 tournament. As we alluded to, they played the 15th seed, South Dakota State, 22-12. D-Lock, going over this bracket, some interesting Drake Bulldogs. Thank you, Taryn. Thank you. I knew it was something. I just couldn't remember. Interesting bracket here. You look at this bracket, you got a potential rematch of last year's championship game between San Diego State and UConn in a Sweet 16. But you got the SEC champions, Auburn, there in that mix as well, in that top part of the bracket. And then you look at the other side of the bracket, Illinois, won the Big Ten tournament. But then you got the other side, you got Iowa State there as well, who should have a lot of fans in Omaha to represent, by the way. Them and Drake and South Dakota State, to be honest with you. If you look at this bracket, can UConn come out this bracket and make it back to the Final Four? Or do they get tripped up earlier about that in this bracket as well?
I think they'll be fine. I think, like you said, having a rematch. I think San Diego State was one of those teams that did make that big move last year and look well. But I think a team that's a sleeper to watch out for is Iowa State. If they can get things clicking, I think they'll be a team to watch out for. Auburn, by the way, I'm with you when you say fuck Auburn because they beat my Gators earlier. I think that this is a team that could change up, could mess things up. But I think them having to get past San Diego State could trip them up as well. And I think that's where we might see that difference. And UConn, I think that UConn, will get through the first and second round pretty smoothly, get to the Sweet 16, and have to see either San Diego State or Auburn. And I think that is where I think that'll be their toughest competition. Now I think that Iowa State does come in and could possibly, shock them or upset them, but also I think they have to get through Illinois. I think that's another sleeper team that's in there. So for me, I think this might be a pretty smooth bracket for UConn. I think that they are, I wouldn't say just the best team overall in this tournament, but I think they're clearly the better team in this region.
I look at this bracket like this. I'm looking at it like this. UConn should handle Stetson. The FAU Northwestern one, that's going to be a tricky one. If you're just doing one bracket, this is like one of those tricky matchups, in my opinion. FAU and Northwestern, because you don't know which way it goes. Those 8-9 matches are so sneaky, but I've been a big fan of Dusty May, so I'm going to roll with FAU on that one. Now, San Diego State and UAB is intriguing. Andy Kennedy has done a very good job since coming back to college and taking over UAB. San Diego State has had a good season, but sometimes I felt like they play down to the competition a little bit at times and let other teams just kind of get one over them, but they shouldn't. Give me San Diego State in that matchup. But if y'all hearing this, don't be surprised that if UAB wins that one. It'll be a close game. It's not going to be no blowout in that game. Auburn and Yale, I think Auburn will take that matchup. I don't say pretty handily, but I think they win comfortably on that one. And then go to the other side of things. Like I said, Drake Bulldog fans, Iowa State fans, and South Dakota State fans. D-Lock, as we talked about this on off the air, I used to live out in Omaha for a short period, close to 4 years. The 3 schools I didn't name off there are close to Omaha. Some little drive, but a couple hours, but ain't the worst thing in the world. Those fans gotta show out to Omaha and support their teams. Especially Drake. If Drake can get there some fan base there and show out there and kind of make it like a home environment, I think, it may could rattle Washington State. Now, I'm not saying they could win or not, but if they could do that, I think that would do wonders for the Drake Bulldogs. I think I would say they'll handle San Diego State as well. Illinois Morehead State, real quick. I think the final line will win that one. BYU with Duquesne. Give me BYU on that one. I think when you get to the second round in this East bracket, that's where things get interesting. Can UConn not, can UConn come prepared for FAU? And then on the other side, Auburn and San Diego State. I think if Auburn's going to try to win that game against San Diego State, they can't have a bad shooting night. They cannot. If you're San Diego State, you got to play one of your better defensive-minded games of all year against the Auburn Tigers. That's gonna be a tough game. Like if you feel on the bracket, you gotta skip that one, come back on Auburn and San Diego State because it's like two different teams, and you don't know which way you're gonna go. But I will say this: if UConn gets matched up with FAU D-Lock, give me UConn on that side of things. Auburn and San Diego State. I've always been an Aztec supporter. I used to live in San Diego. So give me the Aztecs to go over to the Sweet 16 and be matched up with UConn for a rematch in the Sweet 16. Give me San Diego State there. And the other side of things, I think Illinois they should handle BYU. I think Iowa State. I'm going with the upset right here. I got Drake beating Washington State, and I got Iowa State over Drake, which leaves us with me in the matchup with Iowa State, Illinois.
Ooh.
That's gonna be a tough one. I like Iowa State's momentum right now, so give me Iowa State over Illinois. And then in the rematch, I think give me UConn over San Diego State. And then you got the Elite Eight: Iowa State, UConn. It's been years, have you seen Iowa State get high ranked in the NCAA tournament, but they fumble the bag? Like you pick them, like damn, they get knocked out the first weekend. But I think it's gonna be a tough battle between those two teams. Give me UConn to go back to the Final Four, but it's gonna be a dog fight between Iowa State and UConn, and I think that dog fight in the previous round, the lock between San Diego State and UConn rematch of last year's final championship game. I think probably will set them pretty well against Iowa State in this matchup and carrying over to the Final Four. So if y'all follow me here, I got UConn coming out the East to make the Final Four. What do you make of that, D-Lock?
I think that is pretty sure a lot of people will have that as their expectation. Like I said, I think that's going to be a very big pick. I think that, like I said, I think that they are clearly the better team in their region. So for me, I'm kind of looking at, so when you see a team that is so much better or a team that has the high expectations of getting out of the region, I'm looking at what teams could upset them or what teams could kind of make it very tough for them. So I definitely think that, like I said, UConn is that team to watch out for. UConn is that team that should definitely get out of the East. But if I had to say a team that is going to give them problems, I do like Auburn coming in with that momentum. And I think that if they were to match up, I think Auburn could give them some big problems if they were to meet up in the Sweet 16. So again, I think UConn is that the better team. I think that they are gonna, get have their way with the East. I mean, with this region, but don't sleep on Auburn. As much as I don't want to say that, being what they did, they beat them out Gators, but definitely watch out for them.
I'm the same boat with you about Auburn. It's like I said, they could be San Diego State. I mean, it's just, it's like one of those matchups like you try to play in your head and see how it goes, and it's kind of like make your decision that way. But Auburn could make a run. And if, say for example, they do match up with UConn in Sweet 16, can Auburn's bigs hang with UConn's bigs? And I think we've seen with Auburn with Bruce Pearl there, D-Lock. Sometimes if things are clicking well, they're clicking well. But sometimes if things ain't working well, the play can be erratic. So, and with Hurley at UConn, I think he's been so disciplined, and these guys are so straight laced as a unit. You really can't pick no holes, in that team. They like a solid unit. These other teams that kind of describing here, you can pick holes at. But UConn really can't. So that's why I kind of got them going back to the Final Four. It's like, you really can't pick a hole at it. Can't really pick a hole at it. It's just like all these teams are they just solid. I'll let you have the last word.
I mean, I feel like I said, I'm agreeing. I think that you have a few teams that could make an impact in the East, but right now UConn is looking like that dominant team. But I do feel like Auburn is coming in. A lot of these teams are coming in with a lot of momentum, but I feel like Auburn coming off of the victory that they just had. That's a huge momentum push for them. Also, Illinois is going to be a team to watch out for as well. But this should easily be something for UConn to just be going through this bracket, this region. But also, we say it every year. We always see a team that is expected to dominate, is expected to do these things, and something comes up. So hopefully, like I said, I think that this is why we love the tournament time. March Madness is because you have all these expectations of these number 1, number 2, number 5 teams, and all of a sudden the number 14 or number 13 or number 18 comes and is deep into the bracket, which nobody is expecting. So I'm definitely excited to see, especially with UConn having so many high expectations in the East region.
So who you got coming out of the East region?
For me, I'm definitely going with UConn. I still have to fill out my bracket. I just have my eyes on Auburn. I think that they could definitely wreck some shit up. But right now, how UConn is looking, I definitely have them coming out of the East.
Yeah, I got UConn. I got UConn as well. But I think if I had to do the next couple teams behind them, just in case, Iowa State and then Auburn would be my next two up. But before we get to the South bracket, here on IE Sports Radio, we do our March Madness bracket as we do every year. If you go to the ESPN site and for the bracket challenge, you look up IE Sports Radio. You see the IE Sports Radio logo there, and enter our bracket challenge. And in our bracket challenge, if you do win or have the best bracket, you would get IE Sports Radio T-shirt of your size, a koozie. Hey, springtime's rolling around, summertime right after that. So a lot of y'all, depending where y'all live at, barbecuing by the river or by the beach, got a nice koozie for you. Also, 2 IE Sports stickers. You put your laptop, your car, and you could do your sticker like this, put on your tumbler. A tumbler for IE Sports Radio. But you gotta win the bracket challenge though. So get your brackets in as soon as you can, because those first round games, I know the first 4 is going to happen here soon. But those first weekend games happen on Thursday around like 11 o'clock or so, Central Time, Eastern Time. So get your brackets in as soon as you can. All right? Y'all hearing my voice? Y'all like free stuff? Do the bracket challenge on IE Sports for IE Sports Radio. Go to the ESPN bracket challenge, type in IE Sports Radio. And like I said, get your chance to win a nice gift basket. So please do that. Check out iSportsRadio.com for further information on the bracket challenge. Now, on to the South bracket. In the South bracket, we got the number 1 seed Houston Cougars against the Longwood, 16 Longwood. Let me pull it up. Longwood Racers. Out of Virginia. I thought they were up in New York somewhere. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Out of Virginia. You got the 8th seed, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. First time in the tournament in 10 years. Can I tell you something, D-Lock, about Nebraska real quick? You know, the men's team could have had better success years ago if they recruited the more talented in-state players while I was out there, instead of like looking elsewhere, and they sucked for years for that. Meanwhile, all the talented state players that they have had and groomed there have gone on to other places and played well. Even to this day. Like Wisconsin point guard Chucky Hibern, who played great in the Big Ten tournament. It's from my high school alma mater. I think he considered Nebraska, but look where he went to, Wisconsin. There's other kids that with this one with the Stanford from different school, Hunter Silas, who committed to Gonzaga High School, but after 2 years went to Wake Forest. I mean, these are kids recently, but over the years, D-Lock, you know, why I bring that stat up, you know, the last term appearance 10 years ago. A lot of talented kids could have helped put that program up since 2003-04, and could have been better. It's good that they're back in it. Fred Hoiberg did a good job, but it just like 10-year stats, like y'all could have cut that a long time ago. Just throwing it out there. But anyways, they played the 9th seed, the Texas A&M Aggies, who was one of those bubble teams, but had a great showing in the SEC tournament. And also, shout out to the founder, Larry B, in the chat. Welcome tonight, sir. Give me your Final Four predictions in the chat, along with everybody else that's still listening. Give me Final Four predictions in the chat, and we're going along and comparing those to each other. Men's and women's. 5th seed, Wisconsin, I just brought up. They played number 12 seed, James Madison Bulldogs. That's going to be a Trinity matchup right there. The 4th seed, the Duke Blue Devils. They played the Vermont Catamounts. No, not Catamounts. I got that right. Let's see. Yeah, Catamounts. Yeah, I got that right. They played them on the March 22nd. The 21st, the Texas Tech Red Raiders to play the NC State Wolfpack, who won the ACC tournament as a 10th seed. First that ever been done in the ACC tournament. Other side of the bracket, Kentucky plays Oakland as the 3 seed. Florida, your Florida Gators, the number 7 seed, they'll play either between the play-in game or first 4 game, either between Boise State or Colorado. And that Boise State-Colorado matchup is going to be a real good one. And then lastly, we got Marquette versus Western Kentucky, who won the Conference USA Championship out here in Huntsville, Alabama the other day. D-Lock, going over this bracket, some upsets that could happen. Where's your view on this bracket, and who makes the Final Four in your eyes?
Well, we did a lot of talking about that East bracket, but this South bracket is one to talk about as well. You got Houston looking like a very good team, but you got Duke in here and Kentucky. There's some teams that can do some. Also Marquette. Now a lot of times, I'm at a point now where we've been doing the show for so long that I've been not being as biased as I used to be. So I would love for my Gators to get there, but I think it's going to be pretty tough for them to get there, in the battles that they have to go through. I definitely think Houston takes care of Longwood. I think Nebraska gets the best of A&M. I think that definitely is going to happen. But I feel like that Sweet 16 matchup is going to probably be Duke against Houston. And I got Duke with the upset, man. I think that Duke is going to pull it off. Houston has been looking extremely well. But, Duke is one of those teams that, I talked about peaking at the right time. They always do that. Duke always comes ready to play. We've seen it for years and years. And I think that they will be. And I think now, we get that chance to see Duke show, why the tournament is so important. So I think that Duke does take that upset from Houston. On the other hand, Marquette is also one of those teams that show up when it counts. But also, we know what Kentucky always does. Kentucky is another team that comes around and that shows the best of themselves during the tournament. So I think that definitely watch out for Kentucky. I think that Marquette and Kentucky will meet up. I think Kentucky takes that, and I think it's going to be Kentucky and Duke that meet each other in that Elite Eight. I think that is going to be a matchup that is going to be a very tough matchup. This is the first bracket and probably the only bracket that I have the number one not being into the Elite Eight. So again, you're hearing it from me. So if you guys are filling out your bracket, somebody take the risk and get used to get bumped out early. But like I said, I think that Duke and Kentucky meet up, and at that point, I think that Kentucky takes that victory. I think that they're the better team, between the two. And I feel like that's going to be a matchup that we'll talk about for years. So at this moment, like I said, you have a good matchups with Texas Tech coming in there, who Kentucky will have to face. I think Marquette is going to be obviously one of those tough matchups as well. But I think Kentucky gets there, man. I think that being in the SEC, which I always preach, I think Kentucky shows that they have the experience of dealing with tough teams throughout the season. And now in this tournament, I think they'll show that. So I definitely have Kentucky coming out of this bracket. I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably don't. It's going to be hard to pick against Houston. But this is one of the upsets that we'll see in this tournament. And I think that's not the only. We'll see more.
For me, looking at the bracket real quick, I got Houston making it to the Sweet 16. I think Texas A&M, they played great, in the SEC tournament, coming up short. But it's just like over the season, there's like, it's just like up and down play sometimes. And then Nebraska, they could win, but I think Texas A&M been on a better roll. But it's gonna be a good tricky matchup between those two teams. But I got Houston making it to at least Sweet 16 there. Now, this is going to get interesting. James Madison, they're a team that a lot of folks probably, they heard of them, but this is a team you can't not sleep on. This team been in the rankings for most of the year. They had a very strong year. They won a conference tournament over Arkansas State. Shout out to Brian Hodgson, Arkansas State. I think like this is like one of those 5-12 matchups that you kind of take the 12 seed in this instance. I know I brought up, how Wisconsin played and all that stuff. And James Madison is 31-3 in the year, if some of y'all don't know. But I'm just kind of like, I'm looking at this matchup, D-Lock. Terrence Edwards, 17 points this year, leading the squad. 3.5 an assist for him as well. I think if Wisconsin going to win this game, Chucky Herbert, he's got to have a strong game. He can't have like 5 points or so, in this matchup. I think he can't go. He got to score some points in this game. But I think this is like one of this 5-12 matchup, and I'm looking around the other brackets. If that could stand, maybe Grand Canyon St. Mary's, maybe Grand Canyon can beat St. Mary's, and maybe McNeese can upstate Gonzaga. But I think this one I'm putting it in stone. James Madison is going to upset Wisconsin. And then you got Duke and Vermont. I think Duke could win that one. I think it'll be a struggle in the first half, but I think they pull away in that second half in that game. Texas Tech, NC State. This is going to be a real intriguing one. Give me the Wolfpack in that matchup. Kentucky, you got Kentucky going to the Elite Eight. I'm not saying Kentucky can win a national championship. It's just like it's not this year. But I got the win against Oakland, Florida, and I think this is going to be real interesting for them. Like Boise State is good, Colorado's been good. It's going to be hard. Like you really like whoever coming out of that game, and I got Boise State coming out of that game against Colorado. So if they play Boise State, okay, you got like a very quick turnaround to kind of film right there. I think Florida got some momentum. D-Lock, I got Florida winning that matchup, regardless who wins that matchup between Boise State, Colorado. Then Marquette, I think they should handle West Kentucky, but you never know these things. And then, like I said, I already got Houston to the Sweet 16. In my humble opinion, they'll beat out James Madison in the Sweet 16. So I got Houston to the Elite Eight, and I got James Madison beating Duke in the second round. So y'all hear that? So y'all hearing that first? I got James Madison making to the Sweet 16. On the other side of things, I got Kentucky over NC State. Marquette started out very hot in the beginning of the year, but it kind of tailed off a little bit. And Florida is kind of like the opposite. They kind of really picked up steam. I got Florida over Marquette, which leaves us with a matchup in the Sweet 16 between Kentucky and Florida. Like I said, D-Lock, I don't think it's not Kentucky's year. Give me Florida over Kentucky in that Sweet 16, in which now you got Houston and Florida in the Elite Eight.
I would love that.
And give me Houston over Florida. And I think Florida kind of showed they got the bigs to match up with a lot of folks. And I think the game would kind of be scoring in the 70s, but give me Houston over Florida in the Elite Eight. I just think with Cal, it's like it's not like Tom Izzo, like you can expect a run out of him if you're not really paying attention to Michigan State like that. But Cal, you can't give him that benefit of doubt. You know what I'm saying? Even though it's like, okay, well, Kentucky ain't really strong as are, but they can sneak up on you. You can't give Cal that benefit of doubt. Never could. But they're not winning the championship this year. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that also could be true. I just feel like, we are, we look at what teams have done in the season, and you're looking at, okay, well, this is the body of work. This is what they've done. This is what I expect. But, a lot of times, these teams get into this tournament and turn into a different animal. And, not even all for the good. Sometimes the team that have high expectations, they don't perform how they're supposed to. And that's the biggest thing for me is, Kentucky is a team that may not seem to be like this is not their year. They seem like they may be off. But I think that in this tournament, this is what a team like Kentucky, UConn, Purdue, Marquette, these type of teams, they look forward to these tournaments. This is what they are ready for. This is where they are ready to peak and play their best ball. So, in my mind, like I think that what we've seen from Kentucky, I think that we may see, a little bit of a better team. And not only them, but also we see other teams that may not look the same. And that is something that always happens. So, we rarely hear of a Marquette being competitive in college football later on in the season, or Gonzaga. A lot of these teams, we don't really hear too much of that. But because of when these teams are peaking, especially, in the tournament where there are so many opportunities, so many games, these are what these teams play their best. So for me, like, I agree. I think that, we look at the body of work, like, damn, this team don't look like they're ready to go. And we usually see the president put his bracket down, whoever it is. We haven't seen it recently in a few years, but we see a president really write down his bracket and see the expectations. And a lot of people out there feel like they have their brackets. But to me, like I said, I think that we may see, teams be ready to go. You're talking about 16 teams, in each region. That's 60 teams, right? We haven't seen that in any other sport, especially like football. So for me, I think that this is not like the NBA where you have a 7-game series. You have one shot at this. You have to bring your best game every game. And Kentucky is one of those teams that's done it for years. The coach has the history of doing it. So that's the reason why I'm not counting them out so quick. Because again, historically, they come to play their best game. Now Houston, like I said, they got some competition, but I definitely think that Kentucky, Marquette is going to be a team obviously look out for. But those teams that know, well, hey, now the season really begins and they're used to it, they'll come ready to play.
And who you got making the Final Four in the South?
So for the South, I have Kentucky and Duke matching up. I got Kentucky, man.
Ooh.
I think that, like I said, the knowing how important this is, knowing the consistency that this program has had, I think we may possibly see a big upset if they can get rolling.
Ooh, okay. So far, you got UConn, Kentucky make it to the Final Four. So far, I got UConn, Houston.
Yep, UConn and Kentucky.
Interesting. I'll get to everybody's Final Four predictions here in a sec and kind of compare notes. All right. To the Midwest real quick. We got number 1 overseed Purdue. Didn't win the Big Ten tournament, but they still making number 1 seed somehow. But, that's how those things work. They get the winner of the play-in game. Let me pull that up. I got like 7 different electronics going. They'll play the winner either out of Grambling or Montana State. And real quick, D-Lock. If you're Purdue, how do you come into mindset, okay, you're number 1 seed again, basically got the same roster again. How do you come into the mindset of not losing to a 16 seed again? How do you, as a coach, kind of coach your players like, hey, we know what happened last year, put it behind us. How can you coach that up to not get tripped up again like last year?
Well, this is something that I will continuously talk about as much as I can, to the point of having what we call a sense of urgency. That is what is needed. You don't have a sense of urgency, then this slipping up and losing to a number 16 team could possibly happen. That's why you need to make sure that you are ready to play. So it's more so the talk of a sense of urgency. This is something that you're probably putting in a locker room as much as you can, losing last year. So for me, it's just more so of talking up of now we're in the tournament. We cannot slip up. Because if so, a team that should not compete with you is within striking distance in 4 or 5 minutes. Now you panic, they're gaining momentum, and that can mess up a whole lot of stuff. So it's more so of talking about the sense of knowing what's important, the sense of knowing how urgent and important this game is, because we don't have a 7-game series. There is no tomorrow. So bring your best game now. We're talking about, hey, well, we're that number one seed that is expected to go to the Final Four or national championship, but there's games to be played before that. So, as much as that is expected, there are teams number 16 and between 1 and 16 that want to be in the Final Four as well. So that would be my preach to that is understanding what's at stake and to bring a sense of urgency.
I couldn't say it better than myself. Like, if they got a chance to put the hammer down to Montana State or Grambling, I'll take Grambling in that matchup. I'll always favor the SWAC in those type of matchups. But I think if Grambling State wins that matchup against Montana State, or even Montana State wins, they be on the other side coaching, hey, these guys could be got. These guys could be got. We saw what happened last year. I didn't know where FDU was located till last year. Grambling, I know where they at.
Right.
Montana State, we know where they at. So, there's a mentality like, damn, you can get got, like you alluded to. No tomorrow. You can get got. But I think the advantage for Purdue in this first weekend, the game's gonna be in Indianapolis. So Purdue, that campus ain't too far from Indianapolis. Let me pull it up. I think West Lafayette. Oh, come on now. So you're talking about an hour outside Indianapolis. So the old Conseco Fieldhouse, that area is gonna be packed with Purdue fans, and you can't go out again against a 16 seed basically in a damn home game against either one of those schools. You cannot. But moving down the bracket real quick, Utah State, they play against TCU in the 8-9 matchup. Gonzaga against McNeese State, 5-12 matchup. Kansas, so I'm surprised they're a 4 seed. They play against Stanford. I'll get to that matchup here in a second. South Carolina, one of the more surprises in the NCAA this year. They play against Oregon in the 6-11 matchup. And that's going to be out in Pittsburgh. Creighton will play against the MAC champions, the Akron Zips, who got lucky. Well, I don't say lucky in the championship game. There's some mental errors on the other side there. They be playing in Pittsburgh as well. Texas, one of the teams that Taryn asked us, should they get in, should they not? I thought other bowl teams should have got in for Texas. This is my opinion. They'll play the winner of Virginia and Colorado State in the play-in game. First 4 in. Should be a tricky matchup there. Then you got Tennessee with St. Peter's back in the fold in the tournament. And Tennessee is a 2 seed. And those games will be playing in Charlotte. Look at this bracket, D-Lock. What's your opinion of it? And who you got coming out to the Final Four?
This one's going to be one to watch out for. This is the Midwest, correct?
Yes, sir.
For me, I mean, you got, like I said, you have the good teams in Texas there. Tennessee, Purdue, Kansas is always one of those teams that just shows up in a tournament. The team that I've really been paying a lot of attention to this year has been Tennessee. I think that they take care of St. Peter's. I think that as tough as Texas is, I think they take care of Texas. South Carolina or Creighton, they'll take care of either one of those. So I usually got them going to the Elite Eight. I think Purdue, they could have an issue with Gonzaga. Now, the reason why I say that is because I think Gonzaga and Kansas have a hard-fought game, and if Gonzaga can pull off that win against Kansas, I think that Gonzaga comes in against Purdue with a lot of momentum and confidence. So, I actually think that Gonzaga pulls off the upset of Purdue. Again, another number one goes down. I think that Gonzaga coming through a game with Kansas, who always shows up in a tournament. I think Gonzaga does it as well. I think Gonzaga pulls off the upset, beats Kansas and comes back and beats Purdue. Now, I think they run into Tennessee. And this is where I think Tennessee is going to show again. I guess I am being a little bit biased. I keep going to these biased SEC teams, but I think Tennessee shows what they had to go through throughout their season in that SEC schedule and that tournament. So I think Tennessee takes. I think Tennessee gets that Final Four. I think Tennessee is the team that you have to watch out for. And I think that now that sets up a very good matchup, in the Final Four. But Tennessee just seems like they're going to be clicking on all cylinders. And I think the team that can bring issues with them is Purdue. I just think that Gonzaga slips away with a victory, and Tennessee beats Gonzaga. So I have Tennessee coming out of that bracket, and it's not because I went to University of Tennessee a couple of years ago, but I definitely think that this team takes the Midwest.
All right, we're going to be opposite ends on this one. Oh, shout out to Ricky Keeler in the chat. He's saying McNeese State with Will Wade. I can't say that fucking Will Wade. Sorry for my language, but says Will Wade is very intriguing against the overseeded Gonzaga, which I will get to that in a second. All right. If y'all listen to me now, this Midwest bracket could F up a lot of your brackets. I'm going to say it right now. This bracket right here can mess up y'all's brackets. If you try to look for the perfect bracket, try to do the perfect bracket, it's not going to come out in the Midwest region at all. So, let me get to my thing real quick. I think Purdue will win that matchup, whoever they play. I think they can't go out like as two-time suckers, losing like that. I refuse to. I can't. If they do, then old boy should be fired. And he don't have a long drive to go back home to get his stuff. Utah State, TCU. Like every time I try to pick Utah State and trying to make them win a game and stuff, D-Lock is like they always come up short. So give me TCU in that matchup. Now, what Ricky brought up about Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga, like he said, is overseeded. They should be where Texas is at. I think in this matchup, I'm going with one of two upsets in this bracket. Give me McNeese State over Gonzaga. The reason I'm going to say this, D-Lock, the Weasel Will Wade, I think he's going to try and use this, trying to go deep and upset, or trying to at least get an upset to position himself for a bigger job. We know we got Louisville open after that painful run by Kenny Payne. God, if y'all watched some of his press conferences stuff, just painful, just like in over his head and all that stuff. And I hate to say that about a black coach, but damn. Anyways, got the Louisville job open. That's kind of like the real big one right now. And then whoever gets that job, that place will open up. And I think, Vanderbilt, they let go of their coach. Michigan let go of their coach. Juwan Howard's gone. That was painful at the end too. Vanderbilt, I think. Let me say this, D-Lock. I think Jerry Stackhouse should be better suited for the NBA job. And I think he never really got his opportunity in the NBA for whatever reason, for another. And then he still get these retreads, get hired in the NBA. But I hope Stack, goes back in the NBA, get an assistant job, and trying to get a job as a head coach in the NBA. I think that's where he's most suited at. But I think Will Wade is going to try to get an upset, do his damage to get an upset over Gonzaga, trying to position himself for one of those jobs I just alluded to. Now maybe another job will open up here in the next couple of days or so, but I think he's going to try to use this to springboard himself back up into a cushier job. Now, D-Lock, for my other upset, you brought up Kansas. And yes, Bill Self is a very great coach. Hall of Famer. But this ain't one of Kansas years right here. They lack depth. The play's been erratic. They've not been playing up to Bill Self's standard. Meanwhile, Sanford out of Birmingham, the coach, Bucky McMillan, who was a high school coach before he got this job, ran a very successful program down in Mountain Brook, Alabama. And some of y'all don't know about Mountain Brook, Alabama. It's in the Birmingham area, but it's like very well-to-do, affluent, if you catch my drift. And they got the money down there to kind of make things good. For some that don't know about that. So y'all, look at college recruiting, see somebody from Mountain Brook, Vestavia, Hills, very affluent areas around that Birmingham area. Just point out there for y'all. He has a very high scoring system at Sanford. Like I said, Kansas ain't as strong as they were. Getting Hunter Dixon was a big coup last offseason, but there's things that really have materialized. So I'm going to be bold on this. Bucky's a guy that loves the upset, loves surprises. I got Sanford over Kansas in the first round. Y'all hear me correctly. The Sanford Bulldogs, I got them beating Kansas out in Salt Lake City. So now you look at McNeese State and Sanford in the second round. Going to the other rest of the bracket, South Carolina. Very great year for them. Kind of real surprise at the SEC. I got them win over Oregon. Creighton will win that match against Akron, but it won't surprise me. It'll be a close game. But don't sleep on Akron on that one. Now, this matchup here, Colorado State Virginia, if you're Colorado State, if you just pump it full, get ahead of Virginia, and don't try and fall in that Tony Bennett game, I think you can come out and win easily. And Tony Bennett, in the offseason, he got to change up his offensive philosophy a little bit. Because the slow pace stuff like that it's kind of slowly going away. But give me Colorado State in that matchup, and give me Colorado State over Texas in their matchup. And Tennessee, give me Tennessee over St. Peter's, even though I don't trust Rick Barnes in the tournament as well. And then, if I look at the matchups I got now, like I said, Will Wade is going to try and use this to try and get another job. So give me McNeese State over Sanford. Give me Purdue over TCU. Give me South Carolina over Creighton. And Tennessee over Colorado State. Now you're looking at Tennessee, South Carolina, a rematch in the SEC, and then you got Purdue and McNeese State in the Sweet 16. Give me Purdue. This was the Will Wade, train stops here. I got Purdue over McNeese State. Give me Tennessee over South Carolina. And then give me Purdue over Tennessee. I got Purdue make it to the Final Four. I think like you alluded to, I think what you alluded to is like, and I thought about this while I was at work today, is like, I can't go out like I did last year, and I can't go out again early this year. And I think this bracket is very winnable to come out of. Who to say Tennessee could make it to the Sweet 16? They could get tripped up. Like I said, Barnes I don't trust in the NCAA tournament. South Carolina, great story this year, but they could get tripped up early too. And then that top part where Purdue's at. Like I said, Kansas, they are upset alert. I mean, they could win against Stanford, but if they get matched up between McNeese State and Gonzaga, they could easily lose that game as well. They haven't been consistent all year. So I just think the bracket kind of sets up for Purdue to make it to the Final Four. Could they get tripped up? Hey, yeah, sure. But I just think to at least make Zach Edey go out and have a better resume in his tournament career, I think Purdue will make it to the Final Four. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Purdue, they're number one for a reason. And in my mind, I think that they are a team that is going to, do what they do. They're going to bring issues for a lot of other teams. I just, knowing that there's a sleeper team in there that could mess up everything. To your point, what happened last year, you don't want to happen last year. Again, you want to have different results. So the pressure is on. You have a sense of urgency a little bit more. But I also think now, like I said, you have those teams that are coming in that are going to bring their best. So I think that, as Kansas, how Kansas plays, they're one of those teams that peak around the right time as well. But Purdue is going to be a tough get for any team. But, I think Gonzaga is the perfect match for them. And like I said, Purdue, I think that they're one of the better teams also in this tournament. But, we've seen multiple times a lot of top teams take that L at the wrong time. So I think what Purdue does do, I think they take care of whoever they match up against between Montana and Grambling. Then Utah, TCU, they handle that. I think their biggest matchup would be between Kansas and Gonzaga. And, if they can get past either one of those, then now they have to worry about, the other teams. I think Tennessee is going to be one to deal with as well. So look like we definitely was on opposite ends on that one, because I think this bracket is pretty tough, and it has a lot of good teams in here as well. And I think, like I said, Purdue has been playing. Purdue has been playing extremely well. It's just that there are a couple of teams in there that I think that's going to apply pressure to them, and they could fold.
Yeah, I think, like I said, if you look at the brackets and stuff like that, this one's got chance to be your bracket buster. So, like I said, could Kansas find themselves and play strong in the tournament like you alluded to? Maybe. But it's just like, the sound seeing them play, and it's kind of, watching them is like, they catch a beat down by Houston last regular season game. They catch a beat down to Cincinnati. Both double-digit losses. Lost to Baylor earlier this month, 82-74. They lose to BYU. They beat down Texas back in February 24th, but it's like, when they lose, they lose. You know what I'm saying? So, and you can't sleepwalk against Stanford. You can't. I promise you, if you do, they're gonna run and gun it and run you at the gym. I'll put that out there. To the west side of the bracket, D-Lock. We got no one overseas North Carolina. They'll be up against the first 4-in game between Howard or Wagner. I got Howard winning that one. And these games will be in Charlotte, so North Carolina will have that advantage there. Number 8 seed Mississippi State, who had a strong showing in the SEC tournament. One of those bubble teams get in. They play against Michigan State. Tom Izzo, 9 seed. Very intriguing. You got St. Mary's out of the West Coast Conference winning their tournament. They play against number 12 seed Grand Canyon, who's 29-4 at the season. Number 4 seed got Alabama. And these games are playing in Spokane. They play the College of Charleston, who finished season 27-7. In Memphis, you got Clemson as a 6th seed against number 11 New Mexico, who is led by Patino. And then you got the 3 seed Baylor. They play against Colgate. Colgate finished season 25-9. And then out in Salt Lake City, you got Dayton. Shout out to Anthony Grant. They finished season 24-7. They're playing against Nevada, who finished 26-7. Who should have an advantage there. And then you got the number 2 seed Arizona, who plays Long Beach State. And I must say about Long Beach State, D-Lock, and I put this on our Twitter page. Dan Monsoon, if y'all don't know, who's still coaching Long Beach State as we speak, he's been informed that he's got let go of his job. Now, he decided to coach the rest of the way and go about his business after that. But Long Beach State happened to win. They happened to win the conference tournament, D-Lock. So, if in your eyes, if you're a coach, D-Lock, you know you're being let go. Your team wins the automatic bid for the NCAA tournament. How would you coach this up against Arizona? How would you use this opportunity to kind of coach against Arizona and try to maybe land another gig elsewhere? How would you go about this in your shoes?
I think that knowing, that like you said, being let go, knowing what's about to happen, you have to look at this as your last opportunity to prove for possibly another job opportunity. I think that is the biggest thing that needs to be how it needs to be looked at, because this is an opportunity that how this tournament goes. Just give you a chance to have another job somewhere else next year. So I think that's the biggest thing to me is, hey, you know what? Even though I'm on my way out, I want to leave on a good note or a great note or the best note that I can. So for me, I think that that's the attitude that he needs to have, because there's going to be every year. You messaged me earlier about Howard getting let go at Michigan, and we've seen that. So there's going to be jobs open every year, no matter where it is. So at this point, as a coach, you want to make sure that you put yourself in the best position to land somewhere else. And I think that that's something that he needs to do, because unless he's retiring, um, you want to land somewhere else, and learning how it goes when it comes to coaching. You need to make sure that you're, working on your next move and understanding that you may not be at one spot for a long time. So putting your best foot forward puts you in a good opportunity for the next chance that you get. So I think that this tournament needs to be speak values. Knowing that this is your last chance and you're getting let go, coach your ass off. Go get your upset. Try your best to get an upset. So when you do possibly get another call, they can see how you ended on a good note.
We'll see how that shapes out for him. We'll see how the coaching carousel goes, and we'll see if he lands an assistant job, or maybe, like you said, maybe retire, kind of take a seat back or something like that. Or he could parlay this to another job somewhere. Who knows? But I just think Dan Monsoon is like, damn, I win the conference tournament on the way out. Like you alluded to, just use that as a springboard for something else. But D-Lock, looking at this bracket, how do you view this bracket, and who you got coming in the Final Four?
Like I said earlier, I think I really like what North Carolina looks like. I really don't see any real competition in this bracket. I think Alabama's probably going to be their toughest comp. As tough as Arizona is, I just don't. I don't even know if they make it to the Elite Eight. I think they're going to go through it with either Baylor or Dayton. So I think that North Carolina are in a very good position. I think that their toughest competition is possibly going to be Alabama. Clemson has looked good from times, but they're not going to show anything. They're not doing anything to make me think that they're shock anybody. I think, like I said, Baylor is pretty solid as well, but I think this is North Carolina's region without question. And I think they win this region easily. And I think that if they, handle business, I think, like I said, their biggest competition will be Alabama. But outside of that, Arizona's going to be tough, but I think that North Carolina takes this one.
I think real quick for me, you said you got North Carolina making to the Final Four?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For me, I look at this bracket real quick. Like Terry Rodriguez brought up, like Arizona's a tough team to kind of put in your bracket and make all the way, but they get tripped up somewhere. But I think they'll beat Long Beach State. They can't let them have momentum and trying to, let that happen. So I got Arizona winning that one. Dayton, Nevada. It's a long way for Dayton to come out and win. Give me Nevada in that matchup. Baylor, not one of their stronger teams this year, but I got Baylor beating Colgate. Clemson, New Mexico. I like Patina's momentum right now, so give me New Mexico. Alabama and College of Charleston. And yes, Taryn, they couldn't win the Pac-12 tournament. Yeah, that's another factor too. Alabama and College of Charleston. Alabama will win that game, but if College Charleston has watched Alabama the past 5 games or look at film for the past 5 games, if you can play big inside, you got a chance. And Alabama's defense sucks ass this whole year. I'm speaking as an Alabama fan. They suck ass this whole year. You know that. So you got a good inside game and take advantage of Alabama's poor defense. And Carl Charleston got a chance, but give me Alabama in that one. Give me St. Mary's over Grand Canyon, but it will be a close game in that game. Mississippi State, Michigan State. I always got love for Tom Izzo. Give me Tom Izzo in that matchup. In North Carolina, they'll win that first round matchup either against Howard or Wagner. Give me Howard to win that first 4 game though. Now, we get to the nitty gritty real quick. You got the veteran gets Herbert Davis. I like North Carolina so far this year. Like you alluded to when we talk about North Carolina earlier this year, how good they look. RJ Davis looking very good. I think North Carolina will pull that one off. But it's gonna be a tough one though. Alabama's versus St. Mary's. St. Mary's got a good, strong inside game, D-Lock. It's gonna pain me to say this. But give me St. Mary's or Alabama. Like, let me say this. Some of y'all know me, listen to this show about Alabama. It pains me to say that, but this team kind of really overachieved. And they almost won the SEC. This team overachieved. But this ain't going to be the year they win the championship. Now, it could happen, but this ain't going to be the year. Now, come talk to me next year, different story with the class coming in. But not this year. They'll get bounced in the second round by St. Mary's. New Mexico and Baylor, that'll be a good matchup right there. Give me Baylor to beat New Mexico. I got Arizona beating Dayton. And then we get to the Sweet 16. Give me North Carolina over St. Mary's. This is when the train, like Terry Rodriguez said, this is when the train stops for Arizona. Give me Baylor over Arizona. And in this matchup, I think I got all number 1 seeds. Give me North Carolina over Baylor to get to the Final Four.
Ooh.
Oh, not Baylor. Excuse me. North Carolina. Excuse me. Over Baylor in that matchup. But Baylor will make it intriguing, though. So my bracket looking like this. North Carolina, Purdue, Houston, UConn, all number 1 seeds, make it to the Final Four. Your thoughts on that?
That is, I'm sure, we're definitely expected. Like I said, I think you have a good. I think this is going to be a very good tournament. Those number 1 seeds are going to be expected to get there, and I think, like I said, it being a number 1 seed is very good because it shows how much better these players are, these teams are, but also there's pressure there. So to see all 4 number 1 teams going, I mean, that can possibly happen, big time. And I'm pretty sure a lot was expected, but it'd be shocking to see, what the true ending is, and we'll continue to talk about it, on the show weekly.
So our Final Fours are this. You got UConn, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina. I got UConn, Houston, Purdue, North Carolina. Do you want to make a prediction on the air, or kind of want to wait, hold off on your Final Four predictions or championship predictions?
I'm gonna wait for a little bit. I definitely want to see how it pans out. So I'm gonna put those 4 together, and see how it pans out in a couple of weeks. I'll talk about it.
All right, we can do that. Put both of those on ice and see how it goes. Going back to the chat real quick before we get out of here. I know we ran long, but going back to everybody's Final Four picks. Larry B say he got UConn, Arizona, Houston, Purdue making to the Final Four. Terry Rodriguez has got UConn, Alabama, Kentucky, and Purdue as his Final Four. And for the women's, Terry got South Carolina, Iowa, USC, Stanford. We'll get to them real quick. To the women's side, real quick, D-Lock. I got to pull it up. On the women's side, real quick, we'll get out of here. The 1 seeds, Iowa, South Carolina, number 1 overall seed, South Carolina, and Southern Cal, number 1 seed, and Texas, number 1 seed as well. After hearing those number 1 seeds, are you surprised by any of those number 1 seeds in the women's side of things?
Oh, not really. I mean, I think those were the better teams throughout the season. It's good to see that they came to that. That's another, obvious number 1 seeds. But again, we may find a 4 seed or a 5 seed that can, show that they're capable of being a top team. So, but those 4 definitely not surprised at all.
Any predictions on your Final Four for me, real quick? They got Iowa and LSU in the same bracket. Now, they got LSU on the other side of the bracket and Iowa up top. And the only way I see LSU or getting tripped up is they get matched up with UCLA, who's going to be very tough for LSU. Let me ask you this. And I talked about it on last week's show. Can South Carolina stay undefeated to win the championship?
Well, that's a tough one, man. I think so. I mean, I think they can. I mean, it's going to be a very tough outing for them, but I think they are a team that can stay undefeated. The tournament is their region is setting them up to be able to do that as well. But I think, their toughest. They've been looking very good all year. And it kind of reminds me of when we see the UConn women's teams. They used to do these things. So, make it quick. I really think that this team can. They're gonna have a few. Like I said, Iowa's gonna have something to say about the USC Tech. These other teams are gonna have something to say about it. But I think South Carolina is the obvious favorite, and they're gonna obviously have to go undefeated to win it all.
I think they'll make the Final Four. My challenge to Caitlin Clark is to make the Final Four, and she got to do it either against LSU or UCLA. Now, I think the better TV matchup would be like LSU and Iowa in the Elite Eight, in which they kind of fumbled the bag, should have put LSU in a different bracket. You kind of like the drawing ratings if LSU made to the Final Four against Iowa. But anyways, my challenge to her, I said it last week's show, can she win a national championship for Iowa? And I think she got to do it this year. So I got Iowa make to the Final Four. It will be against LSU because I think some trickery involved will get LSU to that Elite Eight game. Iowa versus Kim Mulkey, LSU, Angel Reese. TV gold right there. I think South Carolina, they'll run through their bracket. The only hiccup that maybe is Notre Dame and maybe Nebraska, but I think they'll get past them. Southern Cal, I think this is where Juju Watkins introduced herself to the world. I think she'll carry USC to the Final Four with her play. And I know Stanford kind of stumbled here late in the season, but I got Stanford to make it to the Final Four in the women's side of things. But I still contend with this. I think South Carolina will win the championship, but Caitlin Clark will have a great showing at the end against the Gamecocks. So South Carolina will be undefeated at the end of the year, my prediction. But it will be over Iowa. But Caitlin Clark is going to have a strong game, and they're going to like to make it like she lost, but she won as well. Like, that type of crap that, some of these media folks would do. Any last thoughts on that?
I think, like I said, USC and Iowa are going to be tough outings. They're very much talented as well. I think they're going to be teams that's going to bring, a huge impact to South Carolina. So for me, I think, like I said, I still have South Carolina winning it. I think Juju is going to, like you said, show what she can do, and show her face to the world by taking Southern Cal far away. But Iowa, obviously, Caitlin Clark has already done that and has high expectations for what she's already done this year. But I just think that South Carolina is a team that's going to make history. And I think that this is just their year. The way things are going, I feel like them, they're one of the teams that is going to make a big historic moment. This is just their year. I feel like this is very similar to UConn on the men's side.
And then one remaining thought on this before we head out. On the women's side of if we get that matchup between Juju and Caitlin in the Final Four, that'll be gold. Like you got the old guard going out and going to the NBA, probably to Indiana, and now you got the new shiny toy here in Juju, who could potentially 3 years from now talk about her potentially breaking Caitlin Clark's records, barring injury. So it's just like a lot of intriguing matchups here that in the women's side, like we can see the old guard going out and the new guard coming in. So, like I said, I got South Carolina winning. Do you got South Carolina winning?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we both got South Carolina.
Right there.
But like I said, I think Caitlin Clark will get to the championship game. Her and I will get to the championship game. I think she'll come on short against South Carolina as well. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for y'all tuning in chat, tuning in with us. Do give us the show a like here on Spreaker. It'll help out things in the algorithm. D-Lock, how can people find you on social media?
You guys find me at Black-813 on Twitter, or X as they call it, and D-Lock813 on Instagram. Let them know where they can find you in the show's page.
You can find the show's page at Fast Break at IESR, Fast Break IESR. Do check out iSportsRadio.com for all your latest shows, news, and feeds. Like I said, we're doing the bracket challenge. I introduced the prizes to y'all. Do check out iSportsRadio.com. Click the link to the ESPN site for the bracket challenge. And type in IE Sports Radio on the bracket challenge to find the group. Get added in, put your bracket in. I don't know how many brackets you're going to do, but add your bracket in wherever you feel comfortable with. And let the chips fall where they may and try to win the contest. Y'all like free? Well, into that free contest and trying to win the rewards. Do follow me on Twitter at Spawn4288. That's Spawn4288. I do never show this all. I call it Crooks Process. Do follow the show on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok for how long that lasts. At the Crooks Process, you see the CP logo there as well. Also, I do want to shout out before we get out here. Our brother, let me pull it up. I'm getting it. Our brother at Big Cheese Sports here on iSports Radio. He's doing contests himself. The Big Cheese Bracket Challenge is here. Winner gets $50 gift card to 47, which is like an apparel hat company. So Mr. Bernie is doing a contest himself. $50 gift card for a hat. Give the follow on Big Cheese IESR. That's Big Cheese IESR. And do follow, like I said, IE Sports Radio as well. Like or retweet as well. And join his contest to get a $50 gift card for a new fitted hat. A lot of words right there. Tune in next week. We'll break down the NCAA Tournament Weekend 1. NBA talk. Anthony Davis is hurt again. But who cares about that? NCAA Tournament's here. Talk to y'all later. Peace.